Good morning, good evening, or good afternoon, wherever you are. This is Eric Schlissel, CEO of Cure8. Joining me today is our VP, Munir Haque. He is the guy in Mississippi as of today. He's in Mississippi today at the trade show. Which one is it, Munir? Why don't you tell us a little bit about where you are?
Yeah, guys, I'm in Biloxi, supporting Canacon and everything we do in the IT world.
Tell us about Mississippi. What's happening down there?
A lot of good stuff. Mississippi is now med, and we have sites that are open to the public, and quite a few folks that have gotten their provisional and their location, and they're starting their build out, breaking ground. Getting ready for opening to the public.
So, when you get your provincial license in Mississippi, what are the requirements for getting to that point?
Yeah, so after going through the whole application process, right, and showing that you understand compliance and you can support compliance to your vision, it changes a little bit once you actually get the facility and start drawing up exactly where your walls are going to go and how your flow is going to go. So it takes a little bit of a step back and a redo per se, or a shift a little bit to make sure that compliance is 100% to the par. And from a tech and IT and security standpoint, your vision might change or you might phase it out. And what I mean by that is up front, you envision 3 POS stations and maybe a couple screens, and a waiting room where your guests might have the ability to go on your Wi-Fi. And that could be phase one. And phase two, you're thinking about blowing it up a little bit more. So taking that into consideration and, securing it from an IT and compliance standpoint.
So, are you finding that folks that are getting their provincial license have left out key details that they need in order to attain their full status?
I feel that there is a bit of room for adjusting. And so that's what we're finding in the conversations. Um,
Don't
you
be
know,
so delicate. What's going on?
so Mississippi's retention policy and their camera regulations are very, very thorough.
Hmm.
So with the changes and the changes to the location or the changes to an entrance, it is changing kind of the flow of compliance. So we're going in there and reworking it.
So, you're reworking a lot of the plans that people had submitted in the beginning. Are you finding a significant difference between the two, or is this just not surprising?
To be honest, yeah, I am finding a significant difference. There's a delta sometimes of like 8 cameras or so. The
That's a lot.
vision. Yeah, yeah. And when you really get into it and you look at the folks, the retail aspect, they're learning more, right? They're going into facilities and changing their flow, or they're learning that a waiting room should be maybe like 400 square feet, and versus like a bigger version that they were thinking of prior. So that changes a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. So, what are you seeing? I'm going to jump ahead a little
Yeah.
bit. They get their license, they open up, and they're starting to transact. At what point are clients starting to think about their second, third, fourth, and fifth location? Because that's what they're allowed in Mississippi. How do walk us through that?
Yeah. So clients are actually, they've got their doors open. They saw what it took, and they're streamlining it in their minds. So they're already starting to look for the facilities for their second, third, as we speak.
Is the biggest concern availability of property? Is it the property owners? In terms of property, what barriers are people bumping up against?
Great question. In this market, it really hasn't been too much of finding actual property. It's the state of the property and how much
Interesting.
work do you want to take on. I just got off a call with a client talking about, so the plumbing hasn't been turned on in 10 years. I won't know what it looks like until I turn the plumbing on.
That's pretty rough, especially given the plumbing situation in general in Mississippi and Jackson specifically. It's pretty rough.
Yeah.
So the maturity level of the market, it's obviously immature. Is there a lot of black market activity? Or sorry, gray market as a lot of people like to call it.
Gray market, yeah. Not that we've seen compared to other markets where it's pretty apparent that there is a gray market and it has made a footprint.
Right. It seems that enforcement where there is a gray market is
Yeah.
real. And that's markedly different from a number of other markets, namely New York, California, and so on.
Yeah.
So do you think that oh, go ahead, please.
No, there's one thing that I really appreciate in all our conversations with our clients so far is that they are taking a very community approach and catering to the community and the town and really kind of making a name for themselves in that way and a brand and growing out and coming from a lengthy line of retail and big box and that kind of lineage, like it take a moment to appreciate what Mississippi is going for.
That's amazing. We see that as being a very successful model in a lot of the markets that we're in. So I'm happy
Yeah.
to hear that's happening there. What are people not thinking about as it relates to digital technology when they're starting? Because you hear people from the beginning of the journey through the middle, through the end of launch, and then ongoing and operating. What's missing there?
So when you look at digital technology, there's so many avenues of optimizing and automating that you can go fall into, right? And you can, rabbit hole and spider web. I don't think the market has thought of that yet. And let me give you a couple examples. So, with the solution of cameras that we offer, you can integrate POS data. You can take a look, keep your shrinkage low. Keep your team honest. There's quite a few things that you can do just by utilizing that tech. And you look at it from a different aspect of menu boards. You can utilize menu boards in so many different ways. You can have really cool marketing and show off your brands and your team, or you can integrate it to pull what's hot, what's in stock, what's running low, what are we running a special on. So there's a way to utilize tech in that way that I think hasn't really been thought of, like been thought of yet, because right now the folks are trying to open and trying to go through all that legwork, and it's not easy. Like I don't want to make it seem like finding a facility and putting in your tech and building your walls and turning your plumbing on is all like checkbox. There's a lot of barriers that come into play and a lot of inspections that come into play and delays. So because of that, I think we haven't really spent too much time or have been able to live in the fun aspect of building.
We're getting there, and it actually is true for a lot of what I've seen, where folks don't quite realize how deep the rabbit hole goes when
Yep.
they're trying to open. There are so many variables and unforeseen circumstances that we like seeing folks that can adjust accordingly and quickly and be able to be nimble as they're launching, because you just don't know what's coming around the corner. So let's jump back a little bit. You mentioned waiting rooms.
Yeah.
Are you getting queries about kiosks for people to use while they're waiting, or is that not quite on everybody's radar yet?
I am, and the query is coming from owners have seen it in different markets and how it's
Mm.
utilized. Um, we haven't been open long enough to test, the flow of a kiosk. Right now, there's still excitement of walking in and just kind of waiting to go in and experience the
Wow.
dispensary. But when 420 comes around, when holidays come around, weekends come around, and it's much more familiar, um, I do see at the very least a single kiosk adding some efficiency to the flow.
That makes sense, especially as buyers become more educated.
Mhm.
Walking in, if you know what you want, I would much prefer to just use a kiosk or use my phone to
Yeah.
pre-order. Just go and pick up and walk out. But that exploration in new markets, it's really important. I remember when we were launching our first clients in Canada, and every one of the dispensaries had an education area.
Yeah.
That's not the case anymore. However, I do think that some education coming from either the bartender or somebody in the waiting room or some materials or something would help facilitate patients getting medicine that's more appropriate for whatever ails them. Um, with regards to the longer term forecast in Mississippi, when you're looking at the maturity level of other markets and that cycle that we've seen happen over and over again, do you see breathing room in the near future, in the near term, for folks that are just opening now, for them to expand? Or do you think that the market is positioned so that it'll be a grab right up front and kind of a rat race?
I think we're still in that middle ground where I'm not too sure yet. By the pace of everything, how everything is playing out, I think it's going to be a consistent, slow rollout for a little while.
Hmm.
Um, depending, this is a question that you should ask me in 2 months.
Okay.
Depending where we are in about 2 months and how many folks have been able to meet their open dates, I
Right.
will have a more
Well, we've
concrete
already seen some delays, right?
fair. Yeah, a lot of delays. Now, delays aren't something that's new to us.
No.
Constantly moving that date. But in new markets, there are a lot because the market is learning,
Yeah.
compliance is learning. You know, I
We see,
wouldn't be surprised if compliance changed
yeah,
in the middle of all this.
that wouldn't surprise me either. We see this in New York also,
Yeah,
where we don't know the first what four have opened
yeah,
retail locations, and we don't know what the rubric is for
right.
compliance. Like we don't know exactly what the compliance officers are looking for, and so it's very hard
Yeah.
to try to hit that moving target. Do you think that the folks that are getting into it are properly capitalized for this delay? So you're paying rent, you're paying your team to retain, your key members, you're paying this and that and the other thing. Are they running out of money, or are people properly expecting that 6 month window or whatever it happens to be?
Yeah. From my experience, people are expecting it.
Okay.
I always ask, what is your ideal date of open?
Right.
And then I follow up with, so what is your ideal date of open?
Right. Yeah.
And they do have the two dates in mind, and they're pretty far apart.
Right. From the supply chain perspective,
Mhm.
when folks are opening or as they're opening, is there supply just for the shelves?
That's an issue that we faced for this first launch. Yes, their supply was available, but it was a fear going into it. Will it be available?
Yeah. And what typically is the holdup? Is it testing? Is it grow
In
capacity?
this case, in this market, it was testing. Testing was the holdup.
Interesting. It's funny because testing, it's hard to get it right, and a lot of people don't want to be in that business. And
Yeah,
so we've seen that before where there aren't just enough labs.
yeah,
Yeah.
100% agree.
So is there anything that you see in other markets that you think will come to pass in the relatively near future? For instance, are beverages allowed?
That's a good question. I haven't actually seen beverages on the pick list. Um, and yeah, so after today's show, actually, I'm gonna go take a field trip, go visit
Amazing.
our clients, and really, uh, throw myself into all the products. But yeah, I have not seen beverages yet.
Yeah. I wonder how many of our brands that we see in multiple markets have actually made inroads
Yeah.
yet, and what that supply chain looks like in the ordering process. And all of those logistics happen in the background, but they become a real problem for people that are just opening and trying to fulfill client demand. Um, yeah. From what I understand, there's a very small number of cards that have been given out for for medical purposes. Is that surprising? Are we tracking? What does that look like?
Yeah, another great question. It's actually on my list to go into some meetings and really understand what the phases of medical cards, will look like. Right now, it is a small percentage that is out there, and the stores are able to meet the demands right now. But if the number of cards don't go up, I feel like there's going to be a scale issue here. So I want to see what the state is offering there.
I wonder how much of that has to do with just a lack of education in
Yeah.
the market. Maybe people don't know how to do it or what to do, and so maybe there aren't enough doctors prescribing. We saw that here in California when it went legal in God, ages ago, 20 years
Yeah.
ago, where I had a hard time finding a doctor that would write a prescription for a legitimate medical purpose. It was very challenging, and then the doctors that would do it were kind of, let's just say that it was quite an effort to get to them. And I don't know that I would go to them for regular medical care. So hopefully that doesn't happen in Mississippi, and doctors start prescribing.
Yeah, I'm with you there. What I do like about Mississippi right now is that they are open to listening and hearing what other markets have done. And that is always nothing but a positive.
Yeah, that's a very good sign. If they've built their program on an existing program that actually works,
Yeah.
and they have the finance to actually back it up, because it's not just writing the law, it is all of the mechanics behind it, the office that ensures compliance, the office that ensures licensing. We've seen underfunded programs that kind of blow up because, well, there's no enforcement or there's no sanity checks. If you have any parting words for folks that are in this in-between phase of getting their provincial and not having launched yet, do you have any parting advice, any words of wisdom from other markets that they might be able to take home and assimilate?
Yeah, opening up the conversation and truly lining up all the elements that you need to think of and building around. So, two parts. Understanding, so first of all, congratulations, you were about to open up the facility, a facility of your dreams, I hope. So please take the time to really kind of draw that out and what that feels like and what you want it to look like. And then opening up all the conversations, because there's so many elements that have to then fall into place and that you have to bring in, and trades. And you don't have to have like 24 trades. There are companies, such as Cure8, that can take a big portion of that, but really finding those partners that you can openly speak to and that will guide you along the way, so you can hit all your milestones, stay on track, and kind of run with the punches. That's really my only advice right now is to go in with confidence.
Amazing. That sounds wonderful. Well, thanks for your time today, Munir. I know you're going to for the rest of your day today. Thank you for your time, everybody. Thanks for showing up. We welcome you to join us again for our curated conversations, and have a great day. Thanks, everybody.